everyone. So today is the 18th of January and it's almost been a week since Uluru got reactivated. So in this video I wanted to have a quick chat about my experience in terms of what happened on the 12th of January. So for those who aren't aware, the 12th of January was a pretty important day for the First Nations people of Australia, or otherwise known as the Aboriginal people of Australia, because it was a day that they were actually going to connect Uluru, otherwise known as Ayers Rock, to the central sun by a cosmic umbilical cord. So for those that don't know what the central sun is, it's almost like the source of our solar system, or the source of our universe in a way. And for a very, very long time, the ceremony that the First Nations were doing eons and eons back was interrupted because they were actually trying to have that connection and stabilize on the earth, but that got disrupted. And it was only until October 2019 that things started to get a little bit better for Uluru, especially since they stopped and banned people from climbing it. Now, a lot of sacred sites around the world don't have people climbing it. The Great Pyramids in Giza are one of them. And by stopping people from climbing Uluru, that allowed Uluru to begin to, rejuvenate the energy which it had lost for a very, very long time. And so from an astrological perspective, the 12th of January was the date in which the ceremony that was interrupted years ago was actually going to be completed. So there were many, many light workers around the world that contributed and helped out, whether it was just, holding the space for those who are actually going to be doing the work, or those doing ceremony themselves. So there was a group of people at Uluru on that day, and so they performed a couple of ceremonies at the night time, particularly at the time of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which I think in New South Wales time was probably about 1:30 a.m. on the Monday morning. But for me, I was personally called to go to Byron Bay and join two of my shamanic sisters up there. One who's healing grounds Byron Bay, Eloise, and another one is a beautiful lady from Brisbane by the name of Louise Carroll. And so we joined up and we performed 3 particular ceremonies for Uluru. And the thing that was really cool was, as a shamanic practitioner, we're taught to be the hollow bone. And by being the hollow bone, it pretty much means we set aside who we are, we open ourselves up as a channel, and the guides come through and direct us to do whatever it is. With the 3 of us, it was even more potent, because what was happening was that one of us would be the main hollow bone for the particular part of the ceremony, and the baton just kind of passed from each of us very seamlessly. It flowed really, really well. It was like we didn't actually need to speak up and say, hey, it's your turn. We just kind of knew when it was our particular turn to do things. So, and it was really funny because I remember leading up to the event, the 3 of us were kind of chatting, going, what are we going to do for the ceremony? And there were all these ideas floating around. And then when we actually got there, Spirit was kind of like, you ain't doing any of that. We're just going to put you into it. Because for us, actually, what we were trying to do was, for the first ceremony, we wanted to be able to just create the grid. And then, because Eloise has got connections to the Lemurian civilization, and so we wanted her to initiate myself and Louise into some Lemurian energy. But then when we started, it didn't work that way at all. It was kind of like we actually started to help lay the foundations for the ceremony for Uluru later on in the day. So the foundations were beginning to actually bring down the central sun. There's a particular crystal called azeztulite. Now, it apparently has the properties of the central sun, but we didn't have any azeztulite on us. However, you've got we had heaps of quartz generators. So we just put a quartz generator in and programmed it with the energy of the azestulite crystal. And then as soon as that started happening, I started to get messages that we were actually drawing the central sun right into the middle of that crystal, and the central sun was beginning to radiate throughout the entire grid. And that was kind of the beginning of the session. And it was really amazing because the more we got into the session, the more we realized how much we were supported by, so many beings out there. So not only were there thousands of light workers helping out, there are also many beings, and this might sound a bit weird, but the Pleiadians are an extraterrestrial race from the Pleiades. They have very, very loving energy, and they were one of the main extraterrestrials that were really helping trying to anchor in the central sun to Uluru. Like, I think they were probably the main extraterrestrial race that was doing that. So they were very, very present during our ceremony and really helping us and giving us lots of guidance. And, a lot of the ceremony was not only about reconnecting the ley lines back up to Uluru. And, the ley lines go throughout the world. They're like dragon lines or I think the First Nation might call them the rainbow serpent lines. And they actually connect to all of the sacred places around the world, which also means that they connect all of the chakras of the world up together. Mount Shasta is one of them, then you've got Lake Titicaca, I think Glastonbury is another one, and stuff like that. So that pretty much, we started to do that, kind of bringing down central sun and connecting up and starting to revitalize the ley lines around the world with the Pleiadians. But then there was lots of messages coming through around unity consciousness, around healing the traumas of the divine feminine, around healing the traumas of our ancestors, our mothers' mothers and the mothers of our mothers' mothers, and so on and so forth, and all that kind of stuff, because that is a huge wound that really, really needs to be healed. So yeah, it kind of went from that sort of laying the foundation for the ceremony. And then after that, we went into our second ceremony, which was actually the Lemurian activations. However, there was a big connection to the Sirius constellation and the Sirius race of beings, which I'm now beginning to think that that is also one of the origins of the human race, so the Pleiadians and Sirians. And so I really connected with those guys. Beautiful Christ consciousness was coming through there. And then it was hilarious because during that drum journey, so we did this one by drum journey. During the drum journey, the Pleiadians popped in and kind of was like, all right, we need you guys back at Uluru to do some work. So we went back into Uluru. So each of us have our own mission per se. And so, I won't go into details about what I was doing, but let's just say that, I was kind of taken into Uluru, and there were some beings that I met within Uluru, and, I was kind of working with them in terms of central sun work. And then once that was done, I kind of went outside of Uluru and then came back into the present. There are other people that were working with ancestors and the guardians outside, just dancing and doing ceremony and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. So what else? After that, then we had our last ceremony, which for us, was about really bringing down that light and to help start anchoring in the light around the ley lines and connecting it up. So as Eloise was saying, it was probably about only 20%. And then when the light workers at Uluru finally performed their ceremony later on, that was the 80%, where everything just went, like Uluru pretty much went online, all the chakras of the world connected up, and yeah, there was a real sense of celebration around it. Lots of gratitude, obviously, for everyone who was helping, and the earth seemed really happy as well. And you'll hear it a lot, but it really was, it was done. Like the mission was complete and it felt really, really good. So, you know, I think over the next, pretty much from last week, expect to see more people waking up, expect to see more people connecting with the earth, connecting with themselves, because we've been so disconnected from our own emotions, so disconnected from the earth, we haven't taken care of it for so long. Now expect more and more people to voice their opinions about how the earth should be treated, how animals should be treated, and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is going to be a massive shake-up in terms of the status quo, which no longer works. And so the biggest message that was coming through there was, this is the time for unity consciousness, where we are all one. You know, it's like time to get rid of that whole separate thing where you're separate to me, so whatever I do doesn't harm you. You know, well, if I'm doing it directly, of course it might harm you, but you know what I mean? It's like every action that we have will have its consequences, and the consequences are much far reaching than we think. And so with the unity consciousness, it's kind of like, well, be very mindful of what you think, how you act, how you respond to situations, because everything is connected. And quite frankly, what you put out actually comes back. So if you're going to bitch about someone or harm the planet or something like that, that's actually going to come back to you, and it's going to come back to you like with increased veracity. So yeah, just be aware of that. But I'm really, really excited for what 2020 and the next decade is going to be, because, you know, I think a lot of us are now realizing that the old way just doesn't work for us anymore. It's more about being intuitive. It's more about being empathic, and really being conscious about how we treat others and how we treat nature. So that was amazing. And so what other learnings did I personally get on it? I think as a shamanic practitioner, you know, I tend to work by myself, right? By myself on a client, as opposed to having a group of people working together on a client. And so for me, it was, you know, when we're working as a group, perhaps I need to be a bit more mindful about the energies which are going on in the group, sort of thing. And, you know, it's like, oh, maybe a particular energy that you're tapping into, for example, might not be of the highest light, you know, and might not be of unconditional love, sort of thing. And then there was a really interesting one, because what we did was after the ceremony, we sat down and we were kind of talking about what happened. It's a good way to talk about it, because it actually helps integrate what's happened. And in some cases, like, you know, it's like, okay, so I wasn't just imagining that stuff going on, sort of thing, because we can really be on our heads about that sort of thing. So the other thing was, you know, be mindful of the energies that actually are attached to the message when you're writing things down. And that was something that I had never even thought about before. And so when I received the message with the summary, because of, like, you know, some energies that had come through that weren't necessarily of unconditional love and were still hanging around, I actually, when I was reading it, I felt like I was being choked. So then I had to do a quick, okay, you don't come near me, I give you no permission to be near me, and brought through the violet flame of Saint Germain to come through and just clear everything out. And also violet flamed the message too. So that was a really, really big and really interesting learning, because it's something that has never really occurred before. And so that's kind of, you know, I think part of the theme that's going to be coming through too. There'll be new things that come and test you, and instead of kind of getting offended or you know, kind of riffed up about it coming in, just, you know, just let it go, just recognize it for what it is, learn the lesson, and then like go through with it. It's like being calm in the middle of all that chaos, right? So with all the bushfires that were happening over the last couple of months, and some of them still are happening. If you can, just don't let that anxiety get to you. The most important thing is to come and be still in your own center, because when you are still in your own center, then your outer world is a bit more calmer as well. And so the more that you can actually do that, then the more you're open to observing lessons when they come and not really being offended by them when they come, if that makes any sense. And yeah, another big lesson that I learned was how to actually be really in service to someone. So, everyone's always like, oh yeah, I always want to serve people, blah, 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 blah. And I think for a lot of people, the interpretation of that is service means you're helping someone, which is, yes, you are helping someone. However, I'm now beginning to understand for me that the interpretation of service, or being in the highest service to someone, is really about being non-judgmental and just meeting the person where they're at. So they might be like, trauma stricken, their nervous system might be overloaded and all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of like that to me, like I accept you for whatever process you're going through right now. Allow me to do what I need to do to help you, right? Just kind of acknowledging, kind of like, the namaste, where you acknowledge the God or the source within someone else. It's the same, just acknowledge that and just work with them as, who they are. And I really learned that through the foot therapy that I had with Indie Rose on Instagram. Her name's Claire Law. Because it was just a place where you can just completely surrender and not really care about, how you're feeling or anything like that, because you just knew that you were being completely nurtured and nourished, and that the person serving you just didn't really care about, all the other things that were going on around the outside. It was just pure 100% focus and presence with you. So I thought it was a really, really beautiful lesson to learn as well. All right, so that's probably all I wanted to say about Uluru and what happened with the ceremonies. If you've got any questions about that, feel free to just, drop me an email or, head to my website. I'll put all those details down below. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to what 2020 has in store, and I hope you are as well. So I hope you have a great day. Bye.